Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, live from the Ministry League studios in North Georgia, each week with John the Professor Podine and Paul Superman Sperlin, and with producer Caleb Sampson behind the glass on the Ministry League Network. And on all your other favorite platforms, here with all your ministry talk and the latest in news and sports. It's the John and Paul Show live.
Welcome to the John and Paul Show. I'm Paul Sperlin. With me, as always, is John Podine. And behind the glass is Caleb Sampson, right up the hill and up the mountain, over the hill into the woods. And this is the Ministry League Experience Extravaganza, as we talk to you about the experience in May, which is 26 through 29. And we'll get more information on that coming soon. And this is the John and Paul Show. Find us and follow us, everything we do, Ministry League, at Ministry League. Go to the website, ministryleague.com or theministryleague.com. And now, John Podine.
Hey, everybody. Good morning to everyone. I hope that everyone is having a great day. Paul, it's good to see you. You know, I feel like this is deja vu.
I know.
Things that are happening. But, have you recovered from this weekend? What are you laughing at, Paul?
Absolutely right. No, I have. I've gotten some rest. I had a little relaxation time, some vacation time. Went to Fred Hardeman for a few days. Went to Faulkner for a day. And then we went to Eastpoint, Florida for a great trip. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. And then, of course, we finished up CYC in the mountains. Me and Stephanie took a little vacation time, but promoted Ministry League everywhere we went. And so we're excited.
Yeah, and it has been a crazy month, Paul. You know, we moved to Georgia and we thought we would slow down, but we really haven't. And it's really kicked in. But, you know, last weekend we got to be together at Pigeon Forge at CYC with about 10,000 people, to be able to see everybody that we haven't gotten a chance to see in a while and to be able to interact with them. And what it really tells you, Paul, is that we're coming out of this pandemic. We're getting things back on track. We're getting things back to normal, which you and I are planning. We're working on some things of trying to get a trip into Global and getting that going this year. And that's we're going to talk a little bit about Into Global today.
We are. And please understand, Into Global is the mission work initiative we started 3 years ago. We went to London and going forward in Scotland and other places, and now in Florida. John.
Right. And that's the thing. You know, we want everybody to understand, yes, Into Global, the word is global, but sometimes it happens right in our back door. It happens right here in the United States. And we can't forget about those people. Y'all just went on a trip that was amazing. I love hearing the stories about it. Our people are going to get to hear the story today about it. And it's just amazing of what we're trying to do with this part of Ministry League, because Ministry League is bigger than just an app and just a psalm book, and just it's and Into Global is more than just being overseas. It's about doing God's work, kingdom work, right here, even back home.
I want to give a big shout out as we're about to enter into this discussion, but a shout out to the Woodstock congregation in Woodstock, Georgia, and Jeremy Powell, the youth deacon there. Good friend of ours and of our show. And, they attend Exposure. They do all kinds of things for us. And they're working with us for the Ministry experience. Looking forward to that. But they opened the door for us to go with them down to Eastpoint. And the big thing of how this even started was because it was more affordable to drive 6 hours down the road than it was to fly, 20 hours across the ocean.
Yeah, and this is what our whole dream of all of this was, and which is what we're going to be talking about at the Ministry League experience, is that it's not just a youth rally, it's not just a youth conference, it's about equipping people and training people for you to take God's work back into your home, back where you're at, and to be able to do it. Mission work doesn't have to be right across the ocean. It can be right here at home. And so you got to put that into action here a couple of weeks ago at Eastpoint, Florida. And we're excited to hear more about it today.
Yeah. So Eastpoint is about 40 minutes due south of Tallahassee, Florida, in a congregation that went from 2 people 3 years ago to 30 something people today.
That's
so
amazing.
The growth is really awesome. The couple who helps to run this congregation, basically the preacher and his wife, Mike and Jenny Johnson, just salt of the earth, wonderful people. Cannot wait to introduce you to them. But they do everything for that congregation, everything for that community, and for Franklin County, Florida, which, as we'll find out in a minute, is one of the poorest counties in the state of Florida. And so they're dealing with a lot of things around about the congregation, but it's a really neat story, and we can't wait to get into it.
Yeah. And I guess we can go ahead and let the secret out. If you're watching this, this is not live. This has actually been pre-recorded that we're doing all of this out. And so we hope that you stick around. We'd love for you to comment on there and just kind of see this story, because folks, you want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. This is it right here. And it's an amazing story, an amazing experience that you guys got to share.
Big thank you to Caleb too. Caleb was able to go with me. Caleb Sampson was able to go with me on this trip as we went LJ, Piedmont Road, and Woodstock went on this trip together, and just the experiences we shared and got to have, it was really special. And it really changed our lives, really, the way that just their heart, the heart of this Johnson family and what it means to us. This is a very affordable opportunity to go and help people who need the Lord and people who are serving him. And it's great. And so at this time, I guess we'll go ahead and, Caleb, if you will, come on with them if you want and bring them in. This is Mike and Jenny Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. Thanks for having us. And
how are things in Eastpoint? How's the weather? Looks like the sun's shining.
It's just fabulous. We couldn't ask for more.
Well, the fact that they look like they're like in the sunroom right now, Paul, enjoying soaking up life, I would assume that it's a little bit warmer than what it was when I walked out my door here this morning in North Georgia when it was 40 degrees.
Yes.
And so I know they're having good times
today. We're in the 70s.
That's it, Paul. I'm going back.
We'll end up in the 70s sometime today, but we had to start out in the 30s, which is not fun.
We started out with near 70, so sorry, guys. We're so
see, folks, I'm telling you, you got to go there for no other reason. It's comfortable, and it's comfortable living. It's wonderful to be there and help out good people. Well, honestly, Caleb and I speak for Caleb. John wasn't able to make the trip, but I speak for Caleb when I say our lives were changed during these 5 days in Eastpoint, Florida. And Jenny, oh my word, I'm going to start waterworks here.
Sorry.
Mike, tell me about y'all.
It's going to be a long show today.
It's a great show ever. Mike, Jenny's busy, but Mike, if you will, y'all are so awesome. Tell us about, you've been there 3 years. I know you're both are from Alabama. I've got to say Roll Tide because that's what I do. But let me, no, John. But talk to us a little bit about you coming down for a trip and it turning into a life change. Explain that part of the story as we get started here.
Well, we did begin in Alabama. We lived in 2 places in Alabama. We lived in Florence in the northwest corner for a while, and then we moved back to central Alabama where I originated. And we got a request to come down and give the preacher here, James Lee, a little bit of relief. James appeared to be suffering just from exhaustion, and we were asked to come down and give him some relief. It turned out that there were larger issues than exhaustion. So by mid-September, we had realized this was our life's work. And then Hurricane Michael hit October 10 of 2018. And after that, ever since that, it's been on for us. We've been out in the community. We love these people. They're like family to us. They love us. And that's how we got here. And that's how we're so glad to be here and to stay.
You know, there's something, Mike, I want to jump right off of something that you said is that, y'all came down kind of to help out with the man who had been exhausted probably from doing all that. And that's probably what a lot of people may not understand about ministry in general is that, we think of big churches and, oh, that must be so tough to handle big churches. But sometimes even with our smaller congregations, it's actually, there's more that's expected, and there's a lot more work that has to be done and harder work that needs to be done. And sometimes you do have that exhaustion that sets in, and I'm just glad that y'all were able to go down and to help him out.
So are we, very much. We get up every morning and we are excited to begin the work for the day. We really are.
If y'all will, tell us a little bit about Franklin County. I realize there's two stories to tell about where you live. Tell us about that, and specifically where the church sits and the economy and things of that nature.
Okay. Franklin County is a county of about 14,000 people. Eastpoint has a population of around 2,400. Franklin County at large is the poorest county in Florida, and getting poorer all the time. Our main industry here was oystering for various reasons, theories. The bay has been closed, so our oystermen have become unemployed in a place that had debilitating poverty to begin with. Eastpoint is probably the lowest of the low. We have to our west Apalachicola, which is a big tourist attraction. And then across the bay, 9 miles away, is St. George Island, which is the home of the affluent. And we're caught right in the middle with a total lack of affluence. We had oystering was the draw for us here, an ancient industry of great interest to tourists. That's gone. So we are basically the passageway from Apalachicola to St. George Island and back. Yeah, we have a Dollar General and a Family Dollar. Those are our big draws. And another thing about that, our oystermen were able to make hundreds of dollars a day in harvesting oysters. So the unemployment rate is a little bit misleading here. People are employed, but when the oystermen became unemployed, their wives work at Dollar General and Family Dollar for about 20 hours a week for minimum wage. So yes, they are employed, but it's on a subsistence level for a family of four. We have families of four. We have generations of mothers, grandmothers, and great grandmothers living in the same house, taking care of 10 children. So you can imagine when they're cut back to that kind of income, life just gets harder and harder.
Yeah, you automatically think, I guess, living down in Florida, everybody automatically assumes, oh, it's paradise, and that it's just going to come through, and that's not necessarily the case. Especially as you said, dealing with hurricanes that come through. Of course, you're sitting right there, I guess, in that trigger area of the state of Florida as it comes through, and so even if you're not a direct hit, you're getting blasted with storms that are coming through and through and through, and that just puts people into a greater need. And I know that's where we as the church, we're supposed to be and reach out, but it does when you're under some of these poverty-stricken areas, it makes it a challenge.
Yeah. Very much, and that's how the people have come to depend on us. That's how they have come to know us. Is it falls to us, honestly, to take care of this town, their physical needs. And then this far out from the hurricane, we have been able to begin to meet spiritual needs. And that's probably where you want to segue into Jenny's work with the children, because the children have become the focus of our ministry over time. Not something that we planned for or sought, but in God's plan, that's just where our focus began, was with children.
So Jenny was hauling folks around in the Maxima, right? Or the whatever Nissan, I guess y'all are driving.
That became the church bus, huh?
Yes, they jump in, let's go, until the Pine Hill congregation donated that van, which I know was very helpful, obviously.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit. You mentioned what's going on in the community and things like that. A lot of the families have struggled a lot, and you can mention the Coopers if you'd like. Prayers continue for them and the loss of their two little girls. What sort of struggles are the families of the church and of the community dealing with that you think people need to hear, and what can we do to help?
Well, obviously the poverty, obviously the lack of salvation and understanding what that entails, what Jesus means to our lives and for their lives. The Coopers, that's going to be a little hard for us to talk about. The Coopers have been our family for about 2 years or a little more. Of course, they had a fire that took everything they owned, except including the two little girls, Alexis and Lily. Alexis and Lily were our family. We were as close to those as parents and children can be. So it's been very difficult to deal with that, and we've just been grateful to God that we had the relationship with the Coopers. We have been able to be there for them. Jenny and Crystal, the mother, they were good friends before that event, and they talked a couple of times a day on the phone or on text or messenger. So they were really close. So we have been able to, I was going to say to encourage them, but we've actually all been in this together. We've taken care of each other. We needed them. They needed us, but we love those little girls so much. They were an integral part of our ministry here. It's just an incredible loss for all of us, for Jenny and me also.
However, Thomas and Crystal are attending services more often since this has happened. Go ahead.
Well, they actually haven't missed a Sunday since that happened, because they see now the need not only for help with the physical needs, but they have a hunger for Jesus. Mm-hmm. Yes, for the spiritual, for Jesus, for the Bible.
You can tell about Crystal. Most of I don't know how much of the population, but they know nothing about God. They don't know the difference between a songbook and a Bible. So that's where we're starting with. I would say 90% of the people that we study with here. So it's a long.
So you're talking about a complete clean slate to be able to kind of start with, and that's one thing I don't want to interrupt, because I want to come back and hear more of the story. But, Paul, this is something where, and what we want to do with this Into Global thing, when you're listening to what Mike and Jenny are sitting here talking about, this isn't a Caribbean island. This isn't a place in Africa or a place in India. We're talking about right here, from us, 6, 7, 8 hours away. We're not talking about things that are across the seas. We're talking about things just head down the interstate and you have this.
I'd say 5.5, maybe 6.
Okay, 5.5.
Yeah.
It's convenient. In my older age, I started driving slower.
It's convenient and and I won't get jealous if y'all want to go down and visit these folks. You won't want to leave. You won't want to leave.
Yeah,
they'd love to have
they
you.
love you. They do.
But that's where I wish that, and I can't wait for everybody when they finally watch this to be able to see it. Is that this is in our back door, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. This is not, and look, I'm not saying we shouldn't go to other places. We're working at trying to go to other places around the world, but this is right here in the United States. This is right here with our friends and our neighbors, and that people really have needs. And I just applaud y'all for taking on that mantra of being an Acts church, that when you had needs, you interacted and you met them as best that you can, and you really legitimately you wept when others wept, and you rejoiced when others rejoiced.
It's almost like an Acts formula kind of situation, John.
Really? Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Not to plug something there, but I mean, the thing here is you can go anywhere and give away free food to people. But what I saw was these people giving away with some help here, with people giving away food, but them wanting the spiritual food on the opposite side of that. That's different. And that shows every eldership in the world would recognize the situation of, we don't want to just give away food. I'm telling you, we were in the church building the day after, and Mike is in his office on the phone with somebody quoting the plan of salvation. I mean, people are asking on the phone, they're talking, they're mixing with them. This is a place where you will see the fruit happen. And that's why we're talking right now. That's why we see and have such a love for this congregation, for this family, and for everybody around about it, because it's not just gimme, it's give me this, but man, how can I do to learn more and be more aware? That part's the open door part of it is just, it's incredible.
We have a pantry too.
We do. And we need to talk about that. Paul, I just want to say something to that. As a result of the giveaway, as you're talking about the gentleman that I was speaking with that day, things have really stayed busy for me. After that, people are calling. We're seeing people in the community. People ask for prayer when they were in line for the giveaway, but they continue to ask for prayer.
Reach out.
Right, to reach out, to ask for help, to ask for prayer, to ask to meet and study. So that event of last weekend, and my goodness, what a weekend we had. You know, we had the giveaway. We got to meet all of you folks, and at the same time, the encouragement and the reaching out, and then to witness at the end of the weekend to see 4 young men be baptized. Wow. I mean, would that every weekend could be like that.
Absolutely.
Well, I will tell you, they had 2 more when they got home.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's not stopping. God's powerful, and he's definitely working.
Yes, he is.
You just saw some pictures there, and thank you, Caleb, for bringing those in. And I mean, there was what was that, 5 or 6 tables full of stuff, and it also went in front of us here with more clothes there you go, that were given away. We had kids and Matt Wallen, appreciate this. We had the house heart to heart. Some of our kids were passing to every vehicle that came through. Do y'all have any idea how many people we might have had come in contact with that day? Did y'all ever have a chance to? Over 100, because I know there's 75 vehicles.
I was going to say,
and usually they had 3 or 4 people, or more. So
for sure. So they would come up, drive up, and say, we have 5 families, and there's 5 people in the vehicle. So we'd give the groceries for 5 families. That's kind of how that worked. Yeah. And I mean, you see the pictures here. The cars, they were just everywhere, just lined up around the building. It was just really, really.
It just shows, Paul, the need and that people have, and that, so often we sit in our homes and we're like, oh yes, things are so bad. But then you see this, and you see the pictures of the cars lined up and as y'all were describing, having multiple families sitting in there of people that are just in need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of puts things, it does put things in perspective. And the one thing too, and this was brought to my attention, and I may have mentioned this to y'all, you may have mentioned it to me, to Mike and Jenny, but as we were approaching some of these vehicles, they weren't just a vehicle to take them from point A to point B. Some of these folks were living in these cars.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
These were their home.
Actually, those are our middle class. The ones who have a car
That will
to live
run.
in. That's those are doing well.
Mhm.
Really
Tell
puts
us
things
how-
in perspective.
Yeah. And there's Alexis and Lily there. Tell us the impact of something like this on the community. I know that a lot of folks receive, goods and groceries and obviously Bible study following that. What impact does this do? What kind of attention bring towards the church, the kingdom, in where y'all are because of these things?
Well, it's kind of what we touched on before. There, of course, as you say, globally throughout history, there are both needs. In the book of Acts, we see the physical needs that were addressed, of course, and then the spiritual needs. So I think it increases the call from people to ask for help with, cans of soup, that kind of thing. But then it also, obviously, by the conversations I've had with these folks, it awakens the spiritual aspect. As a matter of fact, we have seen more of that from this past weekend than we did even from Hurricane Michael.
Well, when we went out knocking doors, Mike and I went out and knocked doors a couple of afternoons before the giveaway. And it was amazing how everyone wanted to receive us. No one here trusts each other. It's a drug infested community as well. But we were received with open arms, and they want to learn. They want to learn about God, and they want to learn. We want to teach them how to get to heaven, how to know Jesus.
Absolutely.
What would you say, being there? I would like to know a little bit about the story because Paul was telling me a little bit about it, and I want everybody to be able to hear it. So, you all go down there 3 years ago, and what was the church like then compared to what it is now, and the makeup of and the dynamic of it that you've seen over these 3 years?
Well, when we arrived, we had a congregation of 2. Generally, they weren't here. Very rarely were they in church on the same Sunday. So it's like that quote from the magazine.
It was in the Christian Chronicle.
The Christian Chronicle last week. I would always tell Jenny on Sunday morning, well, today is a line from Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles, writing a sermon that no one will hear.
Oh.
And I would always say, it may just be the 2 of us today. And Jenny would always say, well, then we'll have church together. And that was kind of the philosophy we had to go by. And, but we were never alone. We always had at least one, but visitors from the island. That's a big part of our attendance is people who are vacationing, are looking for a place to worship, and we are it. We are the only Church of Christ in Franklin County. But as things grew, people had learned to, as Jenny says, trust us. They don't trust each other, but they do trust us. And they began to understand that we would provide for them. And over time, for example, 2 weekends ago, Jenny and I were at the building on Saturday night preparing some of the food for Sunday. 2 homeless ladies came and knocked on the door, asking and called beforehand, and then they came over, and we got the food ready for them that they wanted, but we cooked them a nice meal and said, come on in, and we won't take no for an answer. So they did come in, and we cooked them supper, and they stayed with us, and
talked
we visited
about some of their problems they were having. They needed some counseling from
right. And that's a large part of our day too, is just simply, I won't say talking with people so much as listening. They need somebody to listen to, and that again, we are they, because they trust us, and we spend a lot of time doing that. But to make a short story very long, from that it developed into the ministry with the children, with cooking food on Sunday mornings for the children, to minister to the children, and that's where Jenny comes in.
Many,
And let her pick it up there, because
no, many of the children are hungry. When we first started this, I had a family of little girls. There were 4 little girls, and as I got to know them, their home was the dirtiest place I think I've ever seen in my life. Where they lived, they slept with their dogs, their hunting dogs, and no running water, no electricity. And so at this time, I always would give them a snack when they would come to the church building. But then I started asking questions, and they hadn't eaten a meal since Friday at school.
Wow.
So they had like little Kool-Aids and little Debbie cakes or something like that, maybe, but they were so hungry. So we started our breakfast ministry where every Sunday morning the children, they may have 3 plates apiece. They are so hungry. It's amazing to me how hungry they are, and that we're in the United States, and there's people right here that are so hungry.
And she's, if I can jump back in, she's leaving out a big part of that story. Jenny is a very humble person. She's not telling the whole story. When she went to pick up these little girls to bring them to church, nobody had the initiative to get up and get them ready. So Jenny would have to go into the home, wake the children up, take them clean clothes to attend church, get them dressed, get their hair brushed,
no shoes,
and get them back to church. And what she would do is they wanted clothes that looked all right to come to church. So she would provide those. She would bring the clothes that they had been wearing, and wash them and dry them, and then dress them back in those to take her home and keep.
They wanted to keep their dresses nice at the church building.
And they would leave their dresses there because they knew they would get lost. Somebody would get them. So it was.
That's how the breakfast started.
Yes. But her ministry to those, and then that's only expanded to children all over Eastpoint, all over Apalachicola. She has to run 2 routes most days, one to Eastpoint. She will drop those off at the building, and we'll have breakfast ready, and I'll begin to serve breakfast to them. Then she'll bring back the other load from Apalachicola, and we start on that shift. So, her contribution, her ministry, as you say, has just been phenomenal and incredible what she has been able to do with the children.
Just to make sure and communicate this in case it hasn't already been heard, these children come to church to go to church. They get a breakfast meal because it's their weekend meal.
Yeah.
Because they don't get it otherwise.
That's right.
And so these 2 special people are making that available to them, the spiritual food, but also the physical food as well. I'd like to bring in Caleb real quick because I saw Eastpoint from my view. I want him to be able to share his voice here and any questions or comments he'd like to make on this trip before we kind of wind things down here. Caleb, what do you think? What do you got on this?
I was able to give a report to the congregation here Sunday night to do the sermon and kind of a recap of the mission trip, and I was able to kind of share some of the stories of things and And one of the things that kind of stood out to me as I was explaining about kids and hunger and that their Sunday morning meal is the first meal they've had since at school at noon on Friday. And, here our kids are debating and arguing about what version of iPhone they have or, stuff like that. And so I think it was very eye-opening to a lot of young people that went with us. And, that oftentimes we do think of conditions like this in other countries and other places. And of course, the touching story of the two girls and y'all's care and love for them was very touching to many folks. One of the things that Jeremy Powell mentioned from Woodstock that went with us of how he's witnessed Jenny multiple times give her tennis shoes from her own feet to people that she's come in contact with that needed it. And just amazing people. And we're so thankful that God has put you in that location of people who care. And I know that you guys give your heart and soul to it, and it's a labor of love. Mike, I wanted to highlight just for a moment, you kind of came up with a slogan, we'll be standing in the yard waiting for you. Can you explain that a little bit to our viewers?
Yes. Well, the first thing that we did when we came down, nobody knew us. And I told Jenny, we've got to have something to get people to begin to notice us. So I wore a cowboy hat everywhere, because you can't buy a cowboy hat anywhere south of Dothan, Alabama. Cowboy hats in Florida. So that was a big thing. People began to say, oh, there's the preacher in the cowboy hat and his wife.
Okay.
And then beyond that, we have a radio ad that airs 3 times a day on WOYS, our local station. And, I just thought of that one day, that we're a friendly congregation, loving, open arms, welcoming. So, and we were doing that after Bible class on Sunday. Jenny and I were always in the yard to welcome people when they got out of the cars. And I thought, hey, that's it. That's us. We'll be standing in the yard waiting for you. And that's something that people really recognize is the radio ad, because they will, everywhere we go, people will say, oh yeah, I know where you're from. We heard you on the radio. And then I will talk with a lot of people, and they'll say, oh yeah, you're the preacher who's standing in the yard with his wife. I'll say, yes, that's us. So the slogan has been a big draw, because people recognize us as that congregation, that
church,
who are there and waiting for you and welcoming. So it's been a big.
I just want to see Paul in a cowboy hat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited about that.
Cowboy hat. Don't mess with me.
Well, I don't normally wear the cowboy hat anymore, but it not only caught on with me, but it caught on with some of the young people from Woodstock. So when they come down, they wear their
cow. Yeah.
Oh man.
They wear theirs. So
yeah.
we call ourselves the Cowboy Hat Club, and so we go out in ministry, and they do likewise. So it's amazing, it's fun, and it does give us recognition in the community.
It's kind of different that our local radio station would be where that we could get to our people here, but almost everyone here, that's how they get the information about the communities or giveaways or anything going on here is on the local station. So it's the perfect way to get it to them. Not even on Facebook, but that people that don't have television, which is, I would say 75% of the people here, they listen to the radio. It's good.
Yeah, if you don't have electricity, at least you can usually round up a battery. So we're pretty much county-wide, and we reach part of the adjoining counties too. But you can be limited on resources, but usually a battery would be available. So we're out there.
Well, I want to say this too, as the line of cars were going out, as we were doing the giveaway, I know a lot of folks were like, come on, let's move this line. And what's holding us up? What was holding us up was the fact that Mike is in every window, talking to every person in those vehicles, making those contacts. It's like, let's let this line just take its time.
You're right.
Because he was doing the good work he needed to do. And it was so special to watch it. I just appreciate the experience and can't wait for the next time.
Well, people would say later, after I was holding the line up so much, it'd be like, yeah, if you can find a yard, you'll be standing in it. So
yeah,
there you go.
What we did.
That's awesome.
Mike, that's one of the things that this was probably my favorite picture from the trip. And, it's just of you. I think you stopped and had a prayer with this gentleman and him putting his hand on your shoulder and yours on his, just kind of exemplifies who y'all are. And we have a lot of ministers and youth ministers and preachers that tune in to the John and Paul show and that we work with through Ministry League. Can you explain a little bit about how you've learned to be effective in people's individual lives? Because I think a lot of ministers struggle with that. They the pulpit is one thing that many people focus on, but there's so much involved in showing care and concern for each individual soul. Can you speak to that just for a moment?
Well, when we came, we were in that same situation, same boat, if you will, that you're speaking of, because we did not have this experience. So that actually came by necessity. If we were going to be effective, we had to learn that. And Jenny's talked about the fact that nobody here trusts each other. And that's the thing about ministry that I think we have learned, is you have to build relationships. In other words, if you just make cold calls at doors, people will say, well, yes, I might visit you in church Sunday, which means I won't be there. You'll never see me again. But if you can get out and build relationships, which takes time, you don't cover an entire town by doing what you see here, taking time with individuals. It takes time, one person, two people at the time, and it's a slow process, but it's effective, and people learn to know you, to trust you.
And say, this is Mr. Mike. He's telling you the truth. Whatever he says, that's what he does. So,
which can be a problem. Actually, I have to communicate a lot of times. Don't believe the Bible because I believe it, or don't believe the Bible because of what I tell you. I could be telling you anything. Right. You need to get into the Word, and you weigh every word that I say and see if it is actually biblically correct. So that part can actually be a hindrance, but it's all about relationships, and that's what we've been doing now for 3.5 years. And so we're beginning to make some.
So there's two things I need to make sure and communicate, and John may have some final thoughts here in a minute too. We need to, Caleb, if you don't mind, if we don't put it in the show, definitely this is their email addresses if you'd like to reach out to either Jenny or Mike. Also, if you're a church group, a church minister, if you're a youth minister, if you're anything as far as congregations go, this is how you schedule your trips. Yes. You send them emails, you plan ahead on when you're going to go. They didn't speak to this because they don't own it, but there is a local retreat center that stays booked all summer. I'll just say, because it's super nice. It's on the beach, but and super affordable. But if you have an opportunity to go anytime, fall, spring, winter, I would think it's pretty available for that. Also, they can give you their address of the church building. I'd like to ask for donations to help this congregation. The budget is based on the income of these two individuals. So if you would, please let them know and make those donations and help them as you can. And it'd be a good thing to make them part of your annual budget. I'm pretty sure we could spare a few. When you think of all they're taking and giving to other people as well. John.
No, that's exactly what I wanted to add in there too. Is that especially for our people who are watching, we know a lot of people that are out there and a lot of congregations that are doing well, and this is the type of things that we need to be helping and helping our neighbors right here in our back doors. And to any of the elders, youth ministers that are watching, please take this to your elders, take this and have a discussion about it, and send some money down, send some support, and go down and actually support and help them out and grow, because it's not just money, it's also time and effort that needs to be involved in all of this. And Mike and Jenny, I just thank you for the work that you're doing. And I wish I could have been there. I'm going to have to plan to make sure
yes,
I'm there next year. No heart cast during that trip.
No.
And so to be down there, to be a part of it, and just thank you for the work that you're doing for God and His kingdom, and for the people there at Eastpoint. You're changing lives, and we're just so grateful for you.
Thank you.
We're grateful to be here. Grateful that God gives us the responsibility and the honor to be able to do this.
We really appreciate y'all for being with us today. It means a lot. Thank you for your time. We know it'll prove to be profitable in spirit and in other hopefully other ways as well. And so bring a lot of attention towards the good work there. For our people, for people that tune in and watch our show, just know, go to the Ministry League website, ministryleague.com. The Into Global page will have an insert page for Eastpoint and all this information, every way to reach out to them. We'll also post some pictures from a recent trip and get an idea of how that works and how Ministry League can help you get there, in supporting you and help you and whatever it takes to get there as far as we go forward. Caleb, do you have anything else you want to share before we get out of here?
Nope.
Short to the point.
Mike and Jenny, we really appreciate you being here, and love you dearly, and cannot wait. The thing that I get that I love almost the most is the way that Jenny looks at Mike adoringly when he's talking about church work. There's nothing like that. So I really appreciate. Obviously, your love for each other means a lot. Obviously, your love for the Lord. It's just it's infectious, and I appreciate it.
I'm glad this woman wears my wedding ring. I'll be honest. I'll make no bones about that.
Don't worry, Paul's going to take this video and show it to Stephanie. So
I am. See, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. I'm kidding. Love you, Steph. Well, thank y'all for being with us. This has been the John and Paul Show. Thank you to Caleb for Podine's tearing up. I mean, he
what are you talking about? No, I'm not.
He's ready. He's ready. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. I'm ready to go.
So for Caleb Sampson, who makes us all look good, thank you to Mike and Jenny Johnson for being with us. This is John Podine. I'm Paul Sperlin. This has been the John and Paul Show. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and everywhere you find your social media outlets at Ministry League. The website is at ministryleague.com. And do not forget about the Ministry League experience, May 26 through 29 at ministryleague.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. And have a great day, and God bless.